Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Eric. I'm a songwriter and musician with the goal of helping you realize your creative potential by sharing what I've learned over the years of writing music as well as my systems for creativity. Today we're going to talk all about melody. We're going to dive into some concepts and techniques that you can use to approach in your own songwriting to maybe help make your melodies a little bit more interesting, development, a little bit more than maybe you are today. Let's dig in. If you were to ask someone, hey, how does Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana go? They're going to give you either the verse or the chorus melody 99.9% of the time. And you know what? They may not even give you any words, but that doesn't matter because the melody can stand on its own. It's the thing that we remember. The drums, the bass, the guitar, all of that is really, really important to the sound that we hear on the recorded record, but among them all, the melody is king. It's useful to think of melodies like sentences in a conversation. A happy melody might be a great conversation with a good friend. Sad melody might be a conversation where you're getting dumped. Happiness, agreement, loneliness, sadness, questions and answers, all of these are parts of the sentences that we use in conversations. What a great melody is not is boring. Just like a conversation that's boring, you want to get out of that as quickly as you can. Boring melodies are likely to lose interest quickly. So let's make great melodies, yeah? There are lots of different characteristics that we could talk about with regard to melody. The notes used, the timbre of the singer, the attitude in the delivery, and others. And while notes are fundamental to talk about melodies, it's a huge topic, and I want to save that for future videos. Today, I want to stay bigger picture than that. I want to talk about three things with regard to melody: repetition, rhythm, and resolution. So repetition. A great example of repetition is a chorus in a song. We want to hear the chorus again. We don't mind that it's repeated and we look forward to it. Every time I hear the chorus of Interstate Love Song by Stone Temple Pilots, I feel a surge of energy through my body and I get ready to sing, "Leaving on a southern train only yesterday, you lied." But repetition can happen in other places as well. Within the verse of a song, we can hear a melody repeated over and over again, and this can be what makes it memorable. A smaller melody that's repeated over and over again is called a motif. I want to avoid throwing a bunch of fancy classical music jargon at you, but this one I actually find pretty useful. And we can see a good example of a motif in the song Lost Cause by Beck. You can see the highlighted part is repeated multiple times within the verse. It has a little bit of variation, but that's mostly to give it a little bit of leeway for using lyrics with different numbers of syllables. This type of variation doesn't make this less of a motif. If anything, it adds a little bit of interest. Too much identical repetition can get boring after 3 and 4 times, so this is a good thing. Rhythm is another key ingredient of melody. The beat that you start on, the rhythm of the notes that you use, and the notes that you stress within the rhythm all contribute to this. Take Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, a very memorable melody that we all probably know, but kind of boring to be honest. Traditionally, the notes are sung with a very straight count. On the other hand, a song like 13 by Big Star has a lot of rhythmic variation, which creates interest. Don't worry if you can't read music. These concepts are every bit as useful even if you can't. However, if you'd like to see videos on reading and writing music, let me know in the comments. Finally, resolution. A melody typically feels right when it resolves. A great way to think about complete melodic phrases is in terms of questions and answers. The first part of the melodic phrase asks a question. The second half of it answers that question. A great example of this is the melody to Blackbird by the Beatles. The first melody feels finished when it lands on the last note, which is also the same as the first note. This is why it feels that way. It comes home, it resolves, whereas in the middle of the melody, it feels more like a question. The second half feels like an answer to that question. So now let's analyze some of the examples we've already talked about in more depth using repetition, rhythm, and resolution. Okay, I want to start with this one because it's simple. We've already touched on its rhythm, so I'll skip that here. The rhythm is straightforward and simple. Repetition. This song is a nice example to show repetition. If we chunk this melodic phrase up into motifs, there is an A motif and a B motif. It starts with A, followed by 2 repetitions of B, and then ends with A again. What's really cool about the 2 repetitions of B in the middle is it makes you really want to hear A again. A resolves the tension created by repetition of B. Okay, let's revisit Lost Cause by Beck. First of all, repetition. We already talked about the motif repetitions. Another form of repetition in here is in the chorus. These repeated notes set up the little variations that follow. Those notes that begin each phrase in the chorus melody, by sounding like a low drone, they also support the theme Beck is singing about. I'm a lost cause, which reinforces the feeling of the song. This also relates to the rhythmic contrast between the verse and the chorus. While these repeated notes of the chorus are more of a straight count, the verse has more rhythmic variability. And then finally, resolution. To me, the verse feels like one big unresolved question, and the chorus resolves and answers that question. Okay, let's look at one more, Blackbird. In terms of repetition, other than the repeated notes at the beginning of this melody, there isn't a whole lot of repetition here. But rhythm is really important. You can see that there's almost every length of note used here. Quarter note, eighth note, 16th, half, dotted half, etc. In addition, it uses a lot of what's called syncopation. This is where stress notes happen on upbeats instead of downbeats. So if I keep a steady count of beats and sing over the top, you'll hear how the stress notes I've highlighted land on the upbeats instead of the downbeats. This helps add interest to the melody and gives it a sort of momentum that catapults the melody forward. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. So this melody is all about setting up the resolution. It's really important. The first half or so is all a series of questions that are finally resolved by the long final phrase. Even the short phrase that ends on the root note in the middle of bar 5 doesn't feel fully resolved. It's not until it rides that roller coaster of notes and lands on the root note G again that it feels fully resolved. Okay, let's clean up some loose ends really quick here. You may have noted that I use the word phrase a couple of different ways. I've used phrase to talk about whole melodic phrases like the verse or the chorus, as well as subparts of melodic phrases. Hopefully that's not confusing. I do try to qualify which parts of the music I'm talking about, but it's useful at both levels. If you do read music, you'll notice that I notated all of these in the key of C. I didn't really check to see if all of these are actually in the key of C. It was just convenient for me to work them all out in that key, and that's not really important. A melody is the same no matter what key it's in, and I wasn't really concerned with getting the key of each song correct. So there you go. We only really scratched the surface of melodies here, but my aim was to give you some concepts and techniques that you can use to analyze your favorite songs and apply those to your own melodies. Use repetition of motifs to create themes throughout your songs, and use variations of those motifs to create interest and also allow for lyrical flexibility. Also think about melodic rhythm and where the stress notes are. Use different rhythmic schemes between sections like your verse and your chorus to create contrast and create interest for the listener. Think about making melodies that are conversational. use question melodies to set up unresolved feelings, and then use answer melodies to resolve those questions. Hopefully I've shown you in the examples that there's a few different ways that you can do this. Finally, and most importantly, in order to make great melodies, you have to study great melodies. Analyze them, pick them apart, understand how they work, and then use that and apply it to your own songs. If you like this video and want to see more like it, do me a favor and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and click the notification bell. And if there's anything more about melody or any other topics that you'd want to hear about, leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. That's all for now. Until next time, peace.